Hello and welcome back. It's puzzle time with Sudoku Sleuth, and today we're going to be playing Full English Breaky. Now, the full title of this series is actually Full English Breakfast, but I just needed to shortcut it and a bit of English, lingo for you, breaky, informal way of saying breakfast. And you can see Sleuth here just absolutely enjoying his full English breakfast. Kind of full English breakfast. I can see eggs, bacons, coffee, tomato, not even cooked tomato, mushrooms maybe? But what you can't see are, other items that I actually have never tried, such as black pudding, obviously sausages, but they are absent on today's plate. Notice the bacon. You've got actually sort of almost like the traditional English bacon, sort of the back bacon there rather than just the strips. And that's what Sleuth is enjoying. Now, for you guys that are not in North America, or Latin America for that matter, because a few of you are in Brazil, for example, it's a bit of an odd time to post a puzzle about breakfast, but I think for you guys in the US and in Brazil and elsewhere, this is probably around about the right time when you might be thinking about a full English breakfast after all. Anyhow, one thing that I do want to put up or mention before we get into it. So this is a 2-star difficulty rated puzzle, but it's a series of puzzles. There's 5 of them. Now, I don't think I'm actually going to be able to do all 5 in a decent amount of time. So I've already essentially put in the rules and set up the recording for 3 of them. If I really whiz through them, I may go for a 4th. More likely, I'll either stop at 3 or who knows, I may even struggle to get through 3. We'll take a look in today's puzzle. Let's take a look at the first one's rule sets. So we have Sumatra Blend by Michael Lefkowitz. And I guess Sumatra Blend is a specific type of coffee that is very particular. So this is sort of almost like the introductory warm-up puzzle. I guess that's not necessarily a bad thing, a nice hot drink to get you started and get your stomach ready for the full English breakfast ahead. So we've got the following set of rules. Normal 4x4 Sudoku rules. So that means place the digits 1 to 4 once each in every row, in every column, and in every 2x2 box. Then we have coffee quads. So the sum of the cells surrounding each cup of coffee is the same. So the way I'm interpreting that is these 2 cells add up to a value, we'll call it X, and that therefore these 4 values are around this coffee cup, must sum up to X, so should these 2, so should these 2. That's all the rules. Should be fairly straightforward. As always, if you want to play along, link will be in the description down below for you to do so. Now remember, there will be quite a few different puzzles today in the links below, so make sure you click on the right one. This is Sumatra Blend. Let me restart the clock. See how I get on. So what I noticed almost right away is that these 2 coffee cups share this cell. So these 2 cells, which I'll color in blue, and these red cells have to sum up to the same value. And these 2 are essentially in the sum of both of these cups. So if I just remove that for a second, now what that's saying is that red and blue have to be equivalent, otherwise these 2 cups are not going to sum up to the same thing. Now the minimum I can make red, bearing in mind this is 1, 2, 3, 4 cells, 1 to 4 Sudoku, so the maximum I can make this is 4, the minimum I can make this is 1, 2, and a 1, and that's forced. So that does have to be a 1, that is a 2, that is a 1, that is a 4. That's not going to be a 2, that's a 2, that's a 3. So that tells me my sum of the coffees is 6, because it's 4 and 2. And yep, that is 3 and 3, that is 6. Now, to get 6 in 2 cells, normally there's a few different ways of doing it, like 1, 5, 2, 4. That's not true anymore, because we can't even use a 5 in today's 4x4. So essentially, they are all 2, 4, 2, 4, and I know where they go because of these 2s. Essentially forcing the 2s in the corners, and we can just finish up with Sudoku. 3, 1, 4, 3, 1, If I've not made any mistakes, 3 for the finish. That is a lovely warm-up puzzle. Hope you enjoyed your cup of coffee, your Sumatra blend. I think we're ready for the next one, aren't we? So let's see what we've got. So the next one is supposedly harder. This is like a 1-star rating out of the 5 that is given it. Intended. Let's try that again. Yes. Let's try that again. So, hang on. Is that correct? Summy side up is the next one up. Right. So, rules-wise, and you're going to have to forgive the fact that probably the chapter numbers are not going to be quite correct. So, we'll give it a go anyway. Right, rules for summy side up. I guess there's a lot of sums ahead of us. We're in for a few treats with the play on words from Michael here, clearly. So, normal Sudoku rules apply. This is 6 by 6 this time. So you have to place the digits 1 to 6, once each in every row, in every column, and in every 2 by 3 box. Then we have the bacon and eggs set up. So pair up each egg with a bacon cage, and the number on the egg read from left to right is the sum of its, I guess, corresponding bacon cage. So for example, let's imagine that this cage, which is blue, is associated with this egg. Don't eat a blue egg. Whatever this sums up to, we have to be able to put inside this cell. I guess a more interesting one, let's say this red cage, if they happen to be matched up with this red egg, this is summing up to a 2-cell value, and the 2-cell value has to be written in here. Interesting. Right. I think I'm ready. Well, I'm definitely ready for some eggs. As usual, more links in the description down below. So if you want to play along, go ahead and do so. I'm about to restart the clock, see how I get on. So we've got 3 2-digit eggs. Now, this set of bacon is definitely going to add up to 21. And I know that because we've got the digits 1 to 6 each in here. That's the definition of the normal 6 by 6 Sudoku rules for this box. You add them all up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, you will get to 21. So one of these eggs essentially has something that looks as such. The other bacons, so not this gigantic 2 strips 21, the other bacons, I don't think they start with a 2, because, 21 is one option, 20 is not an option, and these, the only set of bacons that are in here that are 21 is this one, because it is 6 cells of 1 to 6. This is only 5 cells. So I know it's not 21 because it's missing 1 digit from 1 to 6. And I know it's not a 1, otherwise, because a 1 will only get me to 20. So essentially, this is, I don't know how I'm going to pencil mark this. This one is 21. This has to be 15 or 16. And this cell would have to be 5 or 6. And that may feel like a bit of a leap because I know this entire column adds up to 21. Whatever the sum of this bacon strip is, has to be a 2-digit number that I can write on this grid. So I know the first cell is going to be 1. The maximum that I can make the next 2 is 5 or 6. Well, the maximum would be 6. But notice, wherever I put the 6 here, let me try that again. If that is summing up to 16, the bottom in here would be 5. Because essentially it's 21 minus 5 to get to 16. And the reverse is also true. If I put a 6 in here from 21, that will end up being adding up to 15 requiring a 1, 5. Right. Okay. Let's try and... So I think I'm onto something here. I'm pretty sure this is 5 or 6. We'll come onto that in a second. But that means that this is a 1. Because this is 15 or 16. It's not 21. Given this cell has to be 5 or 6 to take away enough digits for it to actually come up to a sum that I can write down somewhere on this grid. And wherever I'm writing it down, it's actually not in here. So this bacon is not actually associated with these eggs, because if I put a 6 in here, then this sums up to 15. If I put a 5 in here, this sums up to 16. So it's actually associated with a different egg. Now I'm also noticing something else. If I'm, one of these is 21. If I make it this one, I've broken the puzzle. Because this set of eggs needs to have a 1. So one of these starts with a 1. If it's this one, and I don't know what it sums up to, it's probably this bacon, but we haven't gotten that far yet. I'm actually pretty sure it is this bacon, because the maximum I can make a 2-cell one add up to is 11 with 5 and 6. That would require a double 1, which is not possible. So I'm fairly sure that this is the other 2-cell sum. Now, whatever that 2-cell sum is, whether it's 14, 15, 16, doesn't matter. What I can tell you is it's not this one, because let's say that is the 15. How do I write in 21? The 1s will clash. So this is the 21. This set of eggs is associated with this bacon. This set of eggs, I'll call it orange, is associated with this egg. This bacon is associated with, excuse me. No, I didn't mean to do that. Let's try that again. So this was orange. So it's associated, with this one, because this bacon, which is yellow, is associated with this one. Right. And we know that this is another 1. In fact, we can probably do a bit of 1 cleanup. That's a 1. Then we have 1 is in here, and then 1 in there, just Sudoku rules. Yeah, this is... Right, so what is the maximum I can make this? So I know that I need to add up to a 2-digit sum. That is orange. It has to add up to 15 or 16. And the maximum I can make it is 4, 5, 6, which is 15. So that's 15. Taking away the 5 from the 21, that makes that 16. So that's 16. This is a 5, because none of these are 5s. This is 4, 6. This is 2, 3. This, from these 2 1s that were possible in box 4, that's the only one. That's the 1. That's the 1. That's not a 1. That's 1's done. Let's color these next. So 1 is blue, 1 is green. Figure that out in a second. This has to be 2, 3 to complete the column. 6 you can see in box 4 can only go in here. This is now 2, 3, 4. I'm pretty sure I can't have 2 cells adding up to a 2. That would require a double 1. So 2 is off the table. This could very well be blue. 1 and 2 and 1 and 3 is 3, 4. Interestingly, well, not quite. I was thinking that it may be something similar, because 1 and 2 are not available here. Not they could have ever summed up to 1 or a 2. Sleuth. Right, let's move on. So 1, 2, 3, 4, that's 5. I'm sure I can do better. That can't be 6. So it's essentially whichever egg is green, this still needs to be a digit that I can write in. And it's not 5, therefore 6 is off the table. It's not 6, because that would sum up to 7, and I can't write 7 in a 6 by 6 Sudoku, so it's not 6. So it is, and it's not 2, so it's actually 3 or 4. Right, so one of these is 4 or 5, one of these is 3 or 4. 3, 4 pair in here gives me 2, 6. 2 pay attention. That's 3, that's 2. This is 4, 5, 6. That is not a 6. In fact, this is 3, 4 pairs. Interesting. Not a 2. That's the only place for a 2. Okay. What am I missing in here? 3, 4, 5. Not very useful. Not very useful at all. Whichever egg it is adding up to either 4 or 5. So where does 6 go in box 1? Well, it's not on the egg, and it's not in any of these cells because of this 6, and obviously what I've already pencil marked. That's the only place for a 6. That's not a 6. This is a 4, 5 pair. This is a 2, 6 pair. That 6 gives me an order. That's 6. That's 2. That helps me resolve a lot of things, I hope. Yeah. Excuse me. 3, 4, 5. I can type 5. Lovely. That 2 gives me more. It gives me a 6 here, 6 here, a 4 there, a 2 there. 3, 4 pair, which are still not resolved. That is a 5. These are 3 4s. That is a 3, 4 pair, which gives me a 5 up here. That's another 3, 4. Right, so these eggs are never adding up to 5. So that can't be a 4. If that's a 4, one of these eggs is a 5, and it isn't. So that's a 3 again, which gives me 4, 4. Can't actually link the blues and greens because they have the same totals. But that gives me 3, 4, and if I've not made a mistake, 3 again for the finish. Lovely puzzle. Are we ready for number 3? Because it's coming right up. We've got, what do we actually have? We've had eggs, we've had bacon, we've had coffee. Let's have a look. Oh, tomatoes. Love tomatoes. Sun-dried tomatoes as well. Sun-dried tomatoes by Michael Lefkowitz. Right, rules. So, this time it's 4 by 4. Now, in terms of the ratings of these, it was essentially ascending. So he gave the first one 1 out of 5, the second one 2 out of 5, and this one is supposedly the hardest we're about to tackle, 3 out of 5. How are we for recording time? Let me just take a look. I know I've got a running counter somewhere. 18 minutes. So yeah, probably enough to finish this one, and 3 puzzles is about right. Hopefully this is not the one that's going to take like half an hour. Hopefully it won't. I mean, it's still 4 by 4, so let's give it a go. Rules-wise, we've got normal 4 by 4 Sudoku rules, so that means place the digits 1 to 4 once each in every row, column, and 2 by 2 box. We've covered this one. The salt, digits separated by a salt, have an adjacent value, sort of like a white Kropke dot. So if that's a 2, this would be 1 or 3, and I guess vice versa. As long as these 2 cells are consecutive, we're good. Have adjacent values. Yep. Right, sunny tomatoes. So the tomato cage, obviously if you're English you have to pronounce it tomato, but blame my foreign upbringing around the fact that I pronounce it tomato. So SUMMY tomatoes, the tomato cage and the indicated sunny diagonals all have the same sum. So essentially this comes up to a value, and the sun that's drying it up, let's say this diagonal, we'll call it blue, this diagonal we'll call it yellow, and this diagonal we'll call it red. All of these, the blue cells, the yellow cells, the red cells, and the cage are all coming up to the same value. I'm not going to try and plug in some numbers to make it work. I think that would be solving it at this point. So if you're already up for trying to solve this one, link will be in the description down below. That will be the third one, and hopefully the last one if I manage to solve this at a decent time. Right, let me restart the clock, see how I get on. I mean, I needed to restart the clock, but I actually think the colors is quite helpful, so I can actually see what's going on. I say see, but not exactly. So let's think about this for a second. So whatever we're summing up to, It's 3 digits from the digits 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I can go as low as 1, 2, 3, which would be a 6. And I can go as high as 9 with 2, 3, and 4. Now, I'm also noticing, so essentially the ones that I've colored, these cells are 1, 2, 3, 4. You add them all up, that's 10. Here is another 10. And here is another 2 cells, which even if I minimize 1 and 1, I've got a sum between all of these of a minimum of 22, adding up to 3 suns. Which means that 6 and 7 doesn't work, it's only 8 or 9 that would work. So if I've got a sum of 22, and that's 22 would be, well, it almost doesn't matter. Essentially, these have to sum up to something that is divisible by 3, because that would essentially give me the answer in terms of what I'm trying to sum up to. Now, 22 by 3 is 7 1/3, so 7 is already too small to actually work across all of these. And then I'm left with 8 and 9, and I know that 9 is the maximum because I still need to fit inside this cage. And the maximum would be 2, 3, 4, which is 9. So the way to sort of try and solve this is to see, is there anything obvious about the 8 or the 9 that discounts that sum? So if it is 9, that's 2, 3, 4, that would be a 1, that would be a 2. If it's an 8, that would be 1, 3, 4, that would be a 2, and that would be 1 or 3. I don't see how I can make progress without kind of thinking about... I don't think I'm missing anything. I don't see how I can make progress without essentially disproving whether the 8 or the 9 doesn't work. So if I say it's 8, that would be 2, that would be 1 or 3. And then these 2 cells, because these are 20, these 2 cells would have to add up to 4. And then the options to add up to 4 in 2 cells, but remember, they don't have to be the same. Sorry, they don't have to be unique because they're in different boxes, rows, and columns. So I could do double 2, but that wouldn't work because that would break this 2. The other option would be 1, 3, which I think also wouldn't work because it removes every possibility for this one. So I'm not sure I can make 8 work. Hopefully I can make 9 work. So if it's 9, that would be 1, that would be 2. That's 20, that's 20. I need these 2 cells to add up to 7. That would be 3, 4. Which I think is, so far, is doable. I mean, obviously that 3, 4 is fine, that 3, 4 is fine. It's not breaking anything in here. So far 9 looks good. These 2 cells would have to add up to 8, which would require actually a double 4. Right, okay, I'm committing. That's 1, that's 2, that's 4, that's 4. That makes that a 3, that makes that a 4. So far that's good. This is 9. These 3 cells also have to add up to 9, and obviously, right, actually, let's just put the 4 in here, just Sudoku, Sleuth, make your life easier, 3, 1. This is at 6, still needs to add up to 9, so that would be 1, 2, that would be a 3. That is adding up to 9, that is adding up to 9, and that is adding up to 9, so that's looking good. That one gives me 2, 1, 3, 2, 2, and if I've not made any mistakes, 1 for the finish. Not what I was expecting. Not what I was expecting at all. Are we going to go for 4? I guess, to get to a 2... How are we for time? I'm sorry that I'm doing this. I think one of the challenge when it comes to puzzles that are across multiple series is you want to do enough that it does feel like a 2-star difficulty rating, and I wasn't expecting to be done with 3 of them at 24 minutes. So let's give the 4th one a go now. And pardon me for not having the rule sets prepared, but I am going to do this a little bit on the fly. So please excuse that. Hopefully it's all going to fit. That looks fine. Breakfast sandwich. What do we have in store in here? We've got normal Sudoku rules, normal 6x6. I don't know if I need to explain that one again. We've done another 6x6, 1 to 6, once each in every row, column, and 2x3 box. We know that one. Sumwiches. Each sumwich shows the sum of the digits that appear in between the highest and lowest digits in its row. Come again. Right. Sorry, I was a bit slow there. So it's a 6x6 Sudoku, which means that in every row slash column, there are the digits 1 to 6. Now, wherever the digits 1 and 6 are, and that's a bad way of showing that right now, by the way, but I'm going to persist. There will be a set of cells between them that sum up to a value, and that sum has to be on the sumwich. And that's true for both rows and columns. That's extraordinary. Okay. Then arrows, digits on the arrows sum to the digit in the attached sumwich. Wow. I don't think, it doesn't say that at all. Just the fact that it's using the same symbol and calling it the same doesn't necessarily mean that the digits are the same. Right. Only thing I could say is link in the description down below. I have no idea what I'm doing here, but we'll give it a good go. Let me restart the clock. See how I get on. I didn't actually pay attention. Sorry, I'm going to do this quickly. I'm just going to check. Yeah, so this is as difficult as the sun-dried tomatoes. It's just, not as obvious for me. Okay. So with my fictitious example, when I put the 1 and 6 around the sumwich, and obviously the two things, because that can't be a 0. I can't have a sum that adds up to the sumwich in the middle. So what I'm trying to say is that the 1s and 6s cannot be, they just cannot be around the sumwich. They have to be outside it. And at least in row 4, for them to be outside it, one option is 1, 6, and apparently a sum of 0, which isn't allowed under normal Sudoku rules, so that doesn't work. And obviously 1 and 6 next to each other in the rest of the row doesn't work. So the only possibility is 1 and 6 here, with a value. No, that's not right. That's not right. What am I doing wrong? Because essentially what that's saying now is that's coming up to a value, because that's the sum of all the cells between 1 and 6, that has to go in here, which is ridiculous. I'm misunderstanding the rule. Each sumwich shows the sum of the digits that appear in between the highest and lowest digit in its row, and the same is true for its column. The digits that appear in between the highest and the lowest digits in its row, and the same is true for its column. Ah, Sleuth. You forgot. They can, of course, be right. Sorry about this. I think I understand now. When I think I say I understand, this is a 6. So we've just shown that I can't make this a 1/6. So if I don't include the sandwich as part of the 1/6, I'm either left with 1/6 that way, which is a 0, doesn't work. Can't have the 1/6s around it because the sandwich is part of the sum, and obviously then we're left with a digit that is apparently bigger than it, which doesn't work. Then the last possibility was this one, where 1 and 6 are as such with a sum, whatever it is, a value 4, which I now need to repeat in the row, and that breaks. So the only thing that's left is that this is 6. So it's part of the crust, in essence, with this kind of sandwich sums. And then somewhere along here is another 1, and I'm pretty sure I know that it's here, because we need to have sums that are more than 2 cells, as we've demonstrated. Problem with a 1 that is only 1 cell away is that I would have to put the 6 in here again, and that doesn't work. And obviously I can't put it adjacent, because that would be a difference. There'll be no sums between it, and 1 here doesn't work. So that's the only place for a 1. That's 2, 4. This is 3, 5. And we can apply the same logic in the column. That has to be a 1. The 1 can't be here because that would have a 6 in here. 1 can't be next to the 6 because that would be a 0. That's 2, 4 again. And I'm really wondering if I can just apply this logic consistently now. Not exactly. This was somewhat unique. Why was it so unique? Why did it break that way? Because I'm looking at this sandwich and I'm thinking it's going to break the same way, but I don't think that's true, because there is plenty of space, as you can see. I can put a 6 and a 1 in here and a 2, 4 in between them. And in fact, no, hang on, but that assumes that it's a 6. But I guess that's what I mean is, I think it just happens to be that this is forced because of its location, that it's sort of 2 cells away from the corners. That is only 1 cell away from the corner. So the rows and columns in here have a ton more space to have a 2 cell sum. That's what we're looking for. Can't be a 1 cell sum. Otherwise we're duplicating the, so it can't be a 0 cell sum. That would get to 0. Can't be a 1 cell sum. That would create kind of a conflict in Sudoku. Has to be at least a 2 cell sum. And at least in this particular case, it can't be a 3 cell sum. It could be. If I go for 6 and 1, no, 6 cell sum, 3 cell sum doesn't work because it would require 1, 2, and 3 to keep it as low as 6. But obviously the 1 can't be part of the sum. It's part of the crust. So what I'm actually going to do now is kind of what I do with sandwich sum clues, is sort of determine which ones are part of the crust. Yeah, you can't do that because they don't have to be. They have to be 1 and 6. Sleuth, yes, they have to be 1 and 6 always, because it's the difference between the highest and lowest digit. So the highest and lowest digit are always 1 and 6. So that's 6, that's 1, that's another 2, 4. This is another 3, 5. I don't know how I'm going to resolve these. No, that doesn't work. That doesn't work. And why does it not work? 6, 1, 2, 4, because I'd need to put the 6 in here again. This is tricky. Anyway, this is 3, 5. Just to make, completing the column. These two have to add up to 6, so that can only be 2, 4. And this is 1, 6. Right, let's try something different. The sum wedge, can it ever be, what can it actually sum up to? Can never be a 1 because the lowest digit, 1, is not part of any possible sums. So it can never be a 1. Can be a 2. I could do something like 1 and 6 and a 2. No, because the 2 would be repeated in the column, so that doesn't work either. Then for the same logic, it can't be a 3, because I can't do 1, 6 with a 3. It's back to the same challenge. It needs to be at least a 2-cell sum. And the 2-cell sum can't include the 1. And the minimum 2-cell sums is, because I can't use the 1, is a 5. So 3 and 4 are off the table. So these are 5 and 6. Yeah, I'm okay with that. Now, if this is a 6, what that's saying is it is the largest value. The 1, because it can't be in the box right now, I've already put down a 1. It would have to be all the way in here, and then I would have a 3-cell sum. So that cannot be a 6. That has to be a 5. And that's the lowest value. Sleuth, what's going on? You're really messing up this solve. At least I'm glad I found something that makes this a 2-star difficulty rated puzzle, which I would say this most certainly does. Each sum wedge shows the sum of the digits that appear in between the highest and lowest digits in its row. I'm pretty sure I'm understanding the rules correctly. And I'm pretty sure, because of how this is set up, that this is forced to be part of the crust, sort of the sum wedge. And because it can't be a 1, it has to be the 6. And therefore I need 2 cells. We've already had that discussion repeatedly. It's got to be 2 cells that sum up to 6, and therefore it's got to be 2, 4. So you end up with 2, 4 in here, a 1 there, a 3, 5. And you repeat the logic, 2, 4, 1, and 3, 5. Now that the 5 is down here, that is not a 1, 5 arrow, that is a 2, 4 arrow, because they have to be unique digits, so it's 1, 5 or 2, 4, and this is 1, 6. Now, I think so far all of my steps, sorry, I'm just revisiting them to make sure that up to this point I am correct. So this is, they cannot be 1s, they cannot be 2s, they cannot be 3s because the 1 is never part of the sum, and you cannot have a single cell sum. And therefore that's applicable to 4 because the minimum I can make 2 cells add up to is 2 and 3 to add up to 5. And that presents the same challenge. If this is a 6, again, the earliest place I can put a 1 is all the way out here, and then I need 3 cells to add up to 6, which is impossible. So I don't see the flow in the logic. That has to be a 5. And then I need 2 cells that sum up to 5. Then somewhere in here I need to place a 6. And then I would need 2 3s, which is going to look something like 6, 3, 2, 1, 4. That feels forced. And with a 6 in here, that has to be a 5. Suddenly it's all going so smoothly. Well, where was I struggling earlier? Just being okay. 6, 1. That 6 means that has to be a 1, that has to be a 2, that has to be a 3, that has to be a 4 to make sure that these two cells add up to 5. That's a 4. I think that's all the logic that I need to actually just use Sudoku to finish. Sorry, it's rows and columns. If that's a 4, how am I going to make a 2-cell thingy add up to 5? I don't... No, 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 no. And the problem is the 5 is next to the 1. That's what stopped me the last time. If I put the 1 next to this, wherever the 6 is, well, it can't be here. That would require another 5. And if I put it on the other side, oh, that sleuth. That was always possible. You could have the lowest and highest digit surrounding the sandwich, and it would have been fine. That was always the problem. Dear oh dear. And I say dear oh dear because then I'm not so sure that this has to be a 6 anymore. That was an assumption. I mean, it may well be, because I think I can solve it from here. I could put a 5, a 1, and that would work in the row for this, and that would work in the column for this. And then I could carry on doing what I was doing earlier. It was 2, 3, 1, 4. And I think it would solve, but it's not a great solve. I'm going to have to sort of go back and verify that this is indeed a 6. So that's going to be okay. And I think this is forced. I need 2 cells in here because of this 5. I need 2 cells in here that do add up to 5. Whether it's these 2 cells or these 2 cells, and 1, 4 is not an option. That has to be a 2. That has to be a 4. This is a 5. This has to be a 1. I think that is conclusive. And then because this is 3, 6, and you need the 3, that has to be the 3, that has to be the 6, that has to be the 1, that has to be the 4. So all of this is conclusive, I think, 2, 4. Then we need to complete it in the column. Yeah, you see that already breaks. Hang on. 2, 3, 1. That's 5 adding up to this 5 and 4. That still works. That's a 4. That 3 gives me 5 and 3. What I'm going to do is just finish it and go back to this 3 because I'm fairly confident I've got the right one at this point. 2 and 3, that's 3, that's 2. 6, 5, 2, and if I've not made any mistakes, 4 for the finish. That was a hard... I mean, I guess that's the challenge with this sort of setup. I mean, when you come across a new variant, if you don't quite fully understand it, you do end up doing things that don't necessarily occur to you. You're being forced to by the puzzle, and you just never thought that this is something that's possible. Right, before I actually stop the puzzle, what I am going to do is I'm just going to restart one last time. I'm going to keep the time. And I want to see how do you actually force this to be a 6. Now that you know that you could do something like that, which is very cheeky, very cheeky. I don't know how we can deduce that this is a 6. Right, so we concluded earlier that it's either part of the crust, and this is the crust, and this is the sandwich, or it is the sandwich and the crusts are around it, which would make this 1/6 plus whatever this value is. So we've seen that that is allowed. Yeah, but if that is not a crust, as we've done in here, we'd have to repeat that same trick immediately around it, because now that's part of the sandwich. And if the crust doesn't immediately surround it, this is going to break. So these become 1/6 again. Now, if you look at, yes, okay, so it breaks almost certainly row 3. Essentially, this is definitely going to be a crust. It's 1 or 6. Now, how am I going to make this sandwich work? Because that could never be a crust. That's the conclusion. Because my options are, there's another crust in here, in which case the sum is 0. That breaks. This is the other crust, in which case the sum is actually only a single cell, and I'm repeating it, and that breaks Sudoku. Same challenge on either side in here, 0. Sudoku broken. And of course, it can't, well, no, hang on, we've done this before. That does work. 1 and 6 in here with 2 and 4 would work if this is the 6, this is the 1. That's what we did in here. But then the column, no, yeah, that would work. That would be 3, 5. Right, so that would be forced to be a 6. And then you're trying to come up with cells that add up to 6, including one that is 3 or 5. So that will not work, because whether this is a 3, can't have another 3 with a 1 in here to add up to 6. And a 5 and a 1 doesn't work because the 1 is part of the crust. Is there a solution that doesn't use what is frankly bifurcation at this point? I think you really do need to appreciate that this cell cannot be a crust because of the implications for this cell. But I mean, if that's a crust, that this becomes a crust, and then that, I mean, I don't see how you can see it without bifurcation. Really looking forward to your comments. I think that force puzzle, killed me, as you can see. Hope that you enjoyed the series. This was tough work. And I did, like I said, I don't think I actually mentioned this in the introduction. There's quite a lot of hard puzzles, I thought, this week. And I went back and I checked their ratings, and quite a few of them got bumped up to 2-star magically. That wasn't me voting them up, by the way, that was the community. But I did feature a couple of puzzles that were supposedly 1-star that were voted up to 2 stars this week. So I'm looking at this puzzle and I'm thinking this really should be voted up to 3. Maybe it will be. In which case, I feel like we're done with hard puzzles this weekend. I may do one more tomorrow, but I will definitely do a much more approachable 1-star difficulty for Sunday evening, if not even for Sunday morning. That's all from me for now. Hope you enjoyed the puzzles. See you back for the next video. Bye-bye for now.